All right. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. I almost didn't do my ritual. You get fairy dust and I get fairy dust and the sweet little lamb gets fairy dust. And we are on number one. Number one on the Advanced Bitchifesto. Number one is, I love to read it because it's like, what is it? I wrote it, but I don't have it memorized. Advanced bitches go to any lengths to recover from addiction, codependency, and dysfunctional patterns. Notice it doesn't say that we're fucking cured. I just noticed that off the bat. But we will go to any lengths to do it. We will go to any lengths. We will do whatever it fucking takes to heal from patterns of addiction, codependency, and dysfunctional patterns. And that is number one for a reason, because it's really not easy to do any of the rest while you're still in the food and the drug and the drink, in the codependency. You know, you're not going to be able to do what's next and what's after that and what's after that. You just can't. And I think it would be cruel to put anything else as number one, because until that mischief is managed, and believe me, I know what kind of mischief it is. I'm an addict, and I'm a codependent, I'm a fawn, I'm a freeze mode. And it would be so mean for me to suggest that somebody would do any of the hard things I suggest when you're still in the food. So you've got to fix that. And like I said, I'm an addict. I'm a codependent. I'm an actual food addict, bulimic, and compulsive overeater. My favorite food is more. I'm never full. I get it. I get it. I know it's not the same as a drug addiction or an alcoholic addiction or a gambling addiction or any other sex addiction. I get it. But my addiction is also fucking pretty brutal. And my best friend in treatment was a fucking cocaine addict, sex addict. I mean, and everything we said was the same. So your consequences are different. You know, I get to drive around with 3 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts, and you do not get to drive around with an open container. I get it. Totally different. And also, don't forget, it's not an accident which addiction ended up as yours. And I want you to see that I put addiction and codependency and dysfunctional patterns in the same one. To me, they're all the same. Can you imagine if I'm not an addict, and it would be very hard, I think we all struggle with codependency. We're just on a continuum of the codependency. Like sometimes we're really healthy, and sometimes, I mean, before recovery, sometimes the codependency is not a lot, but then there's others of us that were 100, and codependency is kind of like another addiction for us. So I think everybody has codependency, but then there's those who resonate with me who are fucking codependent, and people and their crazy antics, and we're just hooked by toxicity, hooked by unhealthy people, hooked by other addicts. Like we're just hooked all the time, and that is kind of like an addiction. It is an addiction. I mean, okay, look, I am a therapist, I'm a professional person. I have to say that codependency is not under addiction in the DSM. Addiction is substance use, substance abuse, like that. So just, but for me, the way that I conceptualize it, it is, and I have to treat it as such. That's what works for me. Please, I don't want to put words in your mouth or make it any, and again, I'm not saying this as a therapist who knows the things and let me pick up the no. I'm just saying, for me, it's just fucking helpful to know that I have that addiction and that codependency is an addiction. Because if I don't call it an addiction, I'm not going to take it as seriously as it is, and it's extremely serious. It will cost me everything if I'm not healed in codependency. Addiction, codependency, dysfunctional patterns. We all have are dysfunctional patterns. We all, that are not quote unquote addictions or codependency per se. The first one that pops in my mind is like sarcasm, joking, being cruel, perfectionism, you know, just all that shit. Those are dysfunction. You know, sometimes if you have codependency, don't worry about the dysfunctional patterns. You working on your codependency will probably take care of most of that. Same with addiction. Although addicts, what I realized after doing this, not before, not just as a counselor, but it's just like, oh my God, all addicts are codependents. All addicts are codependents. Like, it cannot be another way. Like, because 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, an addict comes from a dysfunctional household, and a dysfunctional household and a household with addiction in it. And therefore they have to be hero, scapegoat, loner, clown, mascot, lost child, clown, mascot slash clown, lost child slash loner. And then that person turns into the addict. But they have not left that lost child, hero, scapegoat, lost child, mascot, whatever, clown. They have not left that behind when they became the addict. So that's why I know that, again, not speaking as a therapist, but just as an advanced fucking bitch, that you cannot be an addict without also being a codependent. And so, yeah, so there we have it. And so I think addicts are going to have to work on their codependency as well. But I think if you are an addict or you are codependent, you don't necessarily need to worry about the dysfunctional patterns. The words dysfunctional patterns are put there because there are some people, or a lot of people, I don't know how many people, some people who are a mess, but their parents weren't alcoholics or addicts, and their parents weren't, you know, there's no obvious sign of a mental health issue, but somehow you're fucked up. So, and if you don't have an addiction or don't see it yet, so if you don't have an addiction or you don't have a codependency, you belong here. You don't have to find, oh, that's how I ended up being fucked up. Something could happen. Let's say that I don't know, I've never met this family, but the family that's actually pretty healthy, you may go through a natural disaster or something like that as a family, and that could traumatize you in such a way that you come out of that with dysfunctional patterns. Same with parents. Another thing, I was just watching this BBC show last night that I've like decided that I wasn't going to watch it anymore. There's an affair going on, and if you're married to parents and there's an affair, but you don't know it because you're a kid, that's some crazy shit that's going on in your house. But you can't say, like, my dad was an alcoholic and abused me verbally or physically. Like, you don't get to say that. But so the whole reason behind dysfunctional patterns is that we all have them. And so I want to make sure everybody felt like they belonged. So you belong here even if you don't have anything to point to that says why you're quote unquote fucked up. Just a checked out parent, you know, that will lead to dysfunctional patterns. So that's why that's in there. And until further notice, sure, use whatever tools, find whatever tools are here that are going to help you for today. But this is number one. This has to be your number one. You must heal your addiction. You must heal your codependency. Now, great thing about the codependency, everything on the Advanced Manifesto will be in service of healing codependency. But I actually think you have to work the steps. I really do. I'm not saying you have to go to meetings, but I am saying I think it would be actually very helpful for you to work the steps, all of them, thoroughly. And it will be a nightmare, but you must do it. That's part of being the Advanced Manifesto. Being an advanced bitch is that you have worked the 12 steps. I want everyone who is an advanced bitch to be able to say, I have glanced at them and that I have looked at them and I'm willing to do some of the work that's in there. You know, like sometimes that's the best we can handle. But being in recovery, I feel like it would be helpful to you. It would be helpful to your self-esteem. It will be helpful to your identity if you do work the steps. And what do I mean by work the steps? At the most, you've got to go to meetings. You've got to go to meetings. You've got to see other people in recovery. You got to see other people not in recovery. You get to see, you work yourself through the steps the way that are most helpful to you, meaning like one of the things that they say in the 12-step program is like God is a hymn. That's not for me. But so you just so I take what I need to leave the rest. I will trust a higher power or whatever. I at some point will explain how I made the steps work for me. The steps and the traditions are actually pretty important too. And the reason I say this isn't this may completely turn you off, but I'm truly saying, like, instead of like me rewriting the steps for you and it's just one step removed from the actual step, I would work the step because that's the most clean, clear version of it. You're getting the real deal. And now you can feel very confident that you have done that work. Just a little shout out to the steps. Just so you know, like, I do everything they say. Like, don't listen to me. Do everything that they say. Like that if you are in recovery, don't listen to this. You probably should stop listening to this actually right now. Because, you know, I'm not about telling other people what's best for them because I don't know. But I do know that the steps are based on, you can find the steps distilled in every religion. It's just stuff that's helpful, like freeing if you want to be free from shame and guilt, the steps will get you there. Like, for sure, it will have a huge hand in relieving that for you. So, okay, so you get it. Like, again, at some point I will go, because then I could talk to you about my recovery and how I do things and all that at some point. This is just a beginning. But do understand that you don't get to be advanced and not heal your addiction. Like, that's you're lying to yourself. And I don't want you to do that. So if you feel like, and if you are 2 months sober, let's say, and you're going to meetings, but you haven't done any of the steps yet, you're just fucking like hanging, you are an advanced bitch. Like, you are that because you're doing it. So there's something I learned so much from the 12-step program, and one of them was willingness. So all you have to say is, I'm willing to do that. Now might not be the time, but I'm willing to do it. A person who's going to fucking meetings is doing it. Like, they are surrendering by saying, fuck, I don't got this. I got to go sit in a chair in a church somewhere and talk about this shit. Like, fuck. Like, that is the willingness. That's not willingness. That's actually doing it. You're actually working a step by doing that. And so I want to say, just off the cuff, I don't know what's better than the steps. Like, I don't listen to me, like 100%. Go there. And so anybody who is a 12-step person, all that, like, understand, I don't want anybody to choose me over going to meetings or me over ever. That is sacred, not to be touched. I, however, have my own personal experience, strength, and hope. And like I say, like, I can stand in the foundation of that I'm the real deal and that I have done that shit. And you want to be that way as well. And so, and then if you're not an actual addict, codependency, same type of conviction. Like, I'm willing to work on my codependency. The Codependents Anonymous and Al-Anon, they work steps. And so, and then the dysfunctional patterns, I would say, fuck, why not work the steps? Like, it's just helpful. So, and we can't get any further if these things are still in play. If the addiction is still in play, unchecked codependency is in play, unchecked dysfunctional patterns are in play, we no point. And I would actually say it's contraindicated. Ooh, a nurse using her words. Contraindicated means for this patient, this thing isn't indicated. For this patient, because this patient is on this medicine or has this illness, this particular medicine will not work for them. It's actually would be hurtful to them. And that's what I mean by contraindicated. Like, I would say don't go any further. Sure, if you're still lost in your addiction and you can't seem to grapple with it, and you see one of my other tools that may be helpful, that feels like somebody who's doing willingness. And so then you are an addict in recovery. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that I didn't push too many buttons. I hope you're not mad at me. I'm okay if you're a little mad at me. But just like really, truly, the biggest message here is don't listen to me. Like, go listen to the 12-step people. Like I bow down to them. I grant them, first say. Me, I'm a person that you can go to for experience, strength, and hope of that world. Okay, but advanced bitchifesto. You do not get to call yourself an advanced bitch if you're not willing to look at, see, accept, work on, heal your addiction, your codependency, and or your dysfunctional patterns. I know, I was gonna say I hope that was helpful, but this is some eye-rolling shit. It's a big ass. No one wants to do it, and nice to see you. Glad you're here. Glad there's somebody else willing to do this hard fucking shit so we can, again, it's all in service of having a magical life or whatever kind of blank fill in the life that you want. Amazing shit will happen. Okay, love you. Bye.